Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Girl Up UAE podcast. I'm Shreya Nautiyal.
I'm Anya Thomas.
And I'm Mulla.
Talking about our personal experiences in public places as teenage girls.
So I'm sure we've all had some very amazing, interesting instances in public places, and we're going to be all talking about some of our experiences. So one of the craziest things that I've experienced personally is waiting at the metro station for a friend. And mom and dad, if you're listening, please let me continue using public transport after this. I swear I can handle myself. So just disclaimer. But yeah, so I was waiting for a friend at a metro station. And of course, some amazing random strange man had to come and sit on the seat right in front of me. And there were like so many empty seats, and there were like women as well, like sitting and waiting for we were actually waiting for the bus at the metro station. I wasn't waiting though, I was like actually waiting for my friend. I didn't actually want to get on the bus. But yeah, I was seated there anyways. And then a random man comes up, he sits right in front of me. He has a Coke in his hand, and he has those like Parle-G biscuits that he's holding on to. And I know you're wondering where this is going. So he had a Parle-G biscuit packet in his hand. It was open, and he had like 3 just in his hand. And I like noticed him like staring at me, but I didn't really like entertain it. I was just minding my own business, looking away. And after a while, I got so annoyed to the point where I just looked at him, and then he immediately like put 3 biscuits in my face. Like he was like, "Oh, do you want some? You want some?" in a very thick like accent that you can't really like understand, or like you can't understand properly. Like I think it was like I'm not gonna get into it, but it was an accent, right? And then after a while, I was like, "No, I'm good, thank you." And at first I was like, okay, maybe it's just an act of kindness. As weird as it seems, maybe it's just kindness mistaken for something else. So I ignore it. Then after a while, I notice he's still staring at me, and I am beyond uncomfortable. And I text my friend like, "Where are you? Please hurry up." And he comes and he sits right next to me. He gets up, sits on the empty chair next to me, and pulls out his phone very conveniently. Pulls out his phone, is kept on the side, and he's trying to start some conversation with me in a language which I don't understand. I'm not going to specify what language it is to avoid getting cancelled, but yeah. And it's like his camera is like open already, and it's just put aside. And then he's like asking me for a picture, and I'm so done. Like I'm so out of it. I mean, you guys can imagine why, right?
He asked you for a picture. That's so weird. The biscuit thing, I mean, I don't know. If it wasn't Parle-G, I would have said yes. Dark fantasy.
Bro, I was like down.
No, I'm kidding.
No, but
Parle-G without chai is an L.
Parle-G with Coke is an L. I think that was his biggest flag.
So true. Yeah.
That was
drinking Coke
flag.
That was very interesting. So yeah, anyways.
Yeah, do you have any experiences?
This one's a recent one, like this one's literally from last month. Yeah. I went to the mall to go out. I was supposed to meet a couple of my friends at the mall. And I always really feel conscious when I'm leaving the house. So whenever I'm walking to any place whatsoever, even if it's like I'm driving there, like I'm getting a cab there, whatever it is, I'm always on the call with someone. And I was on the call with one of my closest friends. And it wasn't like I was wearing something too revealing. I was wearing a tank top, and I had like a cardigan on top of it. It wasn't like,
but that shouldn't really matter.
It shouldn't really matter in the first place, but like,
yeah.
It was a Friday, so I was like, okay, yeah, there's gonna be like weird types of crowds at the mall. So just like, to avoid situations that I don't want to be a part of, let's just a bit more safer today. And I'm on call with my friend, and I enter the mall, and I'm like, okay, I have to go up to the food court to stay online with me. He was already there at the mall, and I'm escalator up, and I'm like, okay, fine. And there's this man, the age of my dad. He's like the same age as my dad, and he's got both of his hands on the railing of the escalator, and he's like going down, but he's like sitting on the escalator. He's squatting down, got his hands up, and he's with his friends too, like with a group of people, and they're all like the escalator is going down, I'm going up, and at the same time he looks up, and I realized that he's staring at me because he's already been staring like it was coming down. So I was like, okay, it's fine, ignore. And he checks me out and he says, hi. And he bursts out laughing. And all of his friends are still like looking at me. And I turn around because I'm like, what? I'm still processing it. And he's still staring.
I don't understand how they have the audacity to do that in a public place. Like at malls, we have cameras as well.
I really got mad at myself later on for not getting security involved. But I feel like I wasn't in the mental space to process anything that had just happened.
Yeah.
And
we often just freeze up.
I froze and I was on call with my friend. I started crying. And he had to like make sure I was okay to so that I could get home safely later on back. But like I was just so stressed the entire night because I was like, I'm gonna get like some comment again because I had to walk back home too.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like, I was not feeling that day, that event was really traumatic. Getting like checked out by a 40-year-old man is not.
Because people like undermine like how dehumanizing staring could be like from other men, like from men to women.
It's not dehumanizing. It's also very unsettling. Like I'm 16. I look 16, and he looks the same age as my dad. And the way he just like casually goes like hi and like stares up and down and just is still staring at me, not being serious.
And I know there'll be people who'll be like,
please go back.
Saying, oh, he was just staring at you. Why are you getting so over? But it's not like that. Like that one stare can have so much meaning to it, and it can make you feel so unsettling. And yeah, it makes us cry.
It was so. I felt so uneasy the entire night. Mm-hmm. Like, Uncle G, this was not it. What do you
And he probably forgot about it because, like, if he did it in a public place, he must have been doing it to a lot of people. But it stayed with you. It's going to stay with you for a long time. Right?
Yeah, it just shows how impactful something like that could be. Like, even if they don't mean any harm or they think that it's not harmful. But it's genuinely, it's so weird. Like, why are you staring?
They think it's funny, and you're like, is it funny?
They actually think it's funny, and it's so immature. Like, I'm supposed to be the child here. Why are you doing this?
Dumb.
Yes. Anyways, my turn to trauma dump. Okay, so. When I was 15, I'm 16 now, so last year, I went to McDonald's with my friends. And I don't remember the occasion, I think someone's birthday was a treat. And this McDonald's is like close to my house, so I walk and go. And we all met there, we were outside the McDonald's. And I hear these guys like shouting, screaming, like I look back because obviously someone's screaming and they're pointing at me. And they're like oi hoi, stuff like that was being said, okay? And it was like really loud. And these people, they looked about like college age, around like maybe 20. They were like, I always like, I look a little bit immature, I'll say it. I look younger than I am. Everyone says that. And so I nudged my friend and I was like, what is that? Why are they screaming? And he just turned me away and he was like, no, it's nothing. Just like, keep taking pictures or whatever, or do whatever, what do you want to eat? But obviously I wasn't pacified. So I looked again and they were still doing it. And then I was like, wait, is this catcalling? Because I've heard about it from like cousins and all, but I never thought it would happen in real life. Okay, just like another anecdotal thing happens for the people, you hear about it, finish. But it happened and I was like, what the hell, they're catcalling me? I was wearing an off-shoulder top, but that shouldn't matter. I was 15, right?
No. It's so sad how in Shreya's story she specified she wasn't wearing something revealing. And then in your story, you specified that you're wearing something that's off-shoulder. Like, why do we have...
It shouldn't matter. It really shouldn't matter. I agree with that. Yeah. It shouldn't matter what we're wearing.
That's so sad.
Harassment at the end of the day.
And like after that, we went back and we went into the restaurant. The restaurant is McDonald's. Anyways, and like I kept looking back. They were still standing outside the place. And like the whole experience, this whole fun treat, it was just like ruined. I was sad the whole time, and
Yeah.
I came back home and cried. And I said, why am I crying? It's they don't care. I shouldn't be crying, but I did. I cried.
Yeah. I
But I
completely get
definitely
you.
do agree with what Anya pointed out. It shouldn't have to matter what we're wearing at the end of the day. No matter what we were wearing, it wasn't justified for us to be like, for the people that harassed us to like harass us. It was just not okay.
Of
And
course.
my mom and I are really close. So when I came back home, I told her like what happened. I was like, "Oh, yeah, this happened." She was so mad. Like you could see the anger in her eyes, and like my mom doesn't get angry very easily. So, like seeing her in like such a state, so furious was like very like shocking for me because, like I said, she doesn't get angry no matter what. We can like try to annoy her as much as we want. She'll just laugh it off. She doesn't get mad. So like seeing her, and she felt so sad. Like she felt so bad for me to have to experience all of this at such a young age. Is and by such an older man, it just doesn't. It just didn't sit right with her. And I did feel a little guilty. I was like, okay, maybe if I hadn't worn what I had worn, maybe if I hadn't like gone out at that time like I did, maybe things would have been different. But then again, it wasn't my fault. I shouldn't have had
Yeah.
to feel guilty in such a way, even though my parents never blamed me. Both my parents found out. My dad was the parent, you get like security involved. We would have handled it. We would have literally come over to the mall at that moment. We would have taken care of everything. It's the fact that I myself wasn't in the position to like process it, and I've never experienced it either. Like I've had minor experiences of like, oh yeah, someone's checking you out, or like someone's like, someone comes up and goes like, can I get your like Instagram or like something weird like that. But like never have I ever had to by such an older man, and like for him to be like, wait, like it was not it, and it was incredibly traumatizing. And the fact that till this day, I sometimes like, even if I know at the back of my head that it wasn't my fault, I sometimes put it out and then I like, but maybe if things were
exactly.
would it like
I should have done this. I should have done that. I shouldn't have done this.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we're so concerned with controlling how we act to avoid men and their own actions. It's gotten to a point where we will like blame ourselves regardless, when we already know it's not our fault, but it's obviously the man's fault. Like that you could be in the presence of one man who can make these comments, who could stare at you and do all of this, but you could wear the same thing, act in the same manner with a different man who would do none of the above. That just proves that it's not our fault, and it has a lot to do with the mentality of the person. And I feel like this also happens not necessarily just with men. I feel like even like women, sometimes there's a lot of judgment on what you're wearing, like at least from what I've experienced. If you wear something a bit revealing, there's specific like older group of women that like stare at you and they give you like,
oh my god, this is actually so accurate, because in the same mall that this happened this year, like around April, May, I was going out with my friends. But like the thing was, in my top you could see my bra strap, like because it was like a bit more like an oversized top, and like I was wearing like you could see my like bra strap from the inside. And I'm just standing, I'm calling my friend in the middle of the mall. Like it's really not that big of a deal. I'm really doing nothing. I'm just existing. And this auntie comes up and she's with her friend, and she stops walking in the way she was walking, and she turns around and she looks at. They all start talking in like Hindi, and I just didn't know what to say, because it's like sometimes, unfortunately, it just sucks that the people that are supposed to be on our side and are like supposed to support us and like not make us feel uncomfortable, tear us down, and they'll say things like, oh, her parents haven't taught her. She doesn't have any shame. Baseless things, like it doesn't make sense. Why does what I'm wearing have anything to do with my morals and my values?
Right.
Like, don't involve my parents into this. My bra strap wearing is not a label for what I am as a person and my values.
I feel like a woman could walk around. Sorry, I just want to say, like, I feel like a woman could be like, she could walk around naked as well, and you still have no right to like like assume that she wants something, because a woman is not like sexual, and like you shouldn't see her as a sexual object up until it's agreed upon from both aspects that it's a
Both, it's
sexual
consensual
object.
from both ends. Yeah.
Exactly. And I feel like viewing someone as sexual based on what they're wearing is just very, very wrong. Because if you're walking in a mall, like Shreya said, and if you are wearing something where you can see your bra straps, like, first of all, why is that something that is sexualized? You know? Like, it's, first of all, it's a piece of fabric. Second of all, it's not an invitation to anything. And third of all, even if it was seen as an invitation, okay, let's think about it like this: it's an invitation. It doesn't mean you want to get with everyone in the mall and everyone you interacted with, seen, to get to the mall. You get me?
I did. Why is it anyone else's business? You know
I mean,
what I mean?
fair, but yeah.
Like, it's still not okay for like someone to come by and like pass a comment. Like, it wasn't far off me, you know. Like, I'm standing here and she's like right behind me, like a couple inches away. She's standing, and she's just going off about how, you know, I'm shameless and how I don't have any values and how I don't have any models and how my parents haven't raised me right. Because another scrap of fabric is seen. Like, make it make sense.
I think someone needs to raise her all over again. Legit, like, like damn. Yeah.
But you know, these were more like evening kind of situations, broad daylight. Like in the morning, like 9 in the morning, I faced some of the most random thing. Because this was one time I was on the bus and I had to get somewhere, and the bus is just like cheaper and like it's faster too. So I was like, okay, I got the bus. I don't usually take it. And the bus was pretty empty for, you know, usually this bus isn't empty. Like for, it was like, I was pretty surprised on how empty it was. And at the next stop, a couple of people boarded, but this one man boarded the bus. And I was like, okay, it's whatever. Don't think too much into it. And first he was just standing, holding on to like the railing, and he was just like looking around. And then he's just staring at me. And I was like, this is interesting. Let's see where this goes. Guess where it went? He comes up. Bunch of seats are empty. There's so many seats that he can sit on this bus. But because I'm so special, he just had to sit next to me. He just had to come and sit.
Throw the whole man away.
I was like, oh my god, I'm so like, am I that pretty? Am I that special? Uncle just had to come and sit next to me, and I was like, okay, Uncle G, I see how it is. And I'm just waiting on for a couple of minutes. I'm like, okay, you know what? It's fine. We'll deal with this. But he's not getting up. I'm like, okay, now what? Now what? So I just get up because I don't know how to tell him to get up and leave, because again, it's public transport. I can't.
It feels mean. You still feel worried about offending someone.
I'm just like, okay, you know what? For my convenience and Uncle's convenience, let's just get up and sit right in the row right behind the bus driver. And I went and I sat there. And on God, if he would have come up again and sat next to me, that would have been the end of me using public transport.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. I feel like even when we're using public transport, like, I feel like we would all agree that if a woman's presence was there, like there were a lot of women in that bus or in that metro or in whatever form of transport, I feel like we would feel safer. You know what? You know why this is? It's like, for men, we just have this preconceived notion in our mind that when we're in their presence, like, we won't feel safe. And I feel like to an extent it's justified, because it's better to be safe than be sorry. But I don't know, Sarah, what do you think? Like, do your parents feel iffy sending you on public transport because of this, or what's the situation?
I mean, considering the fact that we live in Dubai, I really don't. I mean, my parents are eager on sending me, because we have separate compartments everywhere, even in the bus. Actually, that's I think something really cool. In the bus, we have separate space for women and men, front spaces for women.
I think it's just priority seating.
It's priority seating. It's not like compartment. It's like priority seating. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
But I see like mostly women occupy those seats. Yeah, and then the men sit in the back. Metro, we have a whole compartment.
Right.
You know what? like, here's another thing. If I'm ever wearing a dress or a skirt, or I'm wearing something comparatively shorter, and I have to use the metro, I will always. I don't care what time of the day it is. I don't care if it's 9 in the morning or 9 in the evening. I don't care how empty or full the metro is. I will sit in the women's compartment. And it's an effort that everyone I know makes. Like, we went for a party this year, and we had to use the metro to get to the station, and then we were going to take a cab from there. And we literally made all of our guy friends also stand in the little transition between the women's compartment and the men's compartment. They were standing in between there, and all of us girls were in the women's compartment. And still, somehow, we got stared at.
By who?
But you know what I love is that on the train, even if like the whole women's compartment is going to be packed, but there's going to be so much space in the men's compartment, but they won't go there.
Someone's going to make way, and everyone's just going to sit there.
And like, if say a man walks into the women's compartment, everyone just like attacks him. Why are you here? There's a 300 and a fine or whatever. Leave. I love that. I love that so much.
There's definitely a feeling of like safety when you're in the women's compartment. Like, you're there and you're like, nothing can go wrong now. I am with my people.
But don't jinx that.
Don't
jinx that.
Touch wood.
Touch wood, yeah.
But you know, I read a lot of articles that said that so we have separate gendered compartments in a lot of the Gulf countries, and including like India and Pakistan. But UK, for example, doesn't have it. I don't think US has it either. So what they say is that it further pushes the narrative of like victim blaming, that something happened to you is probably because you weren't sitting in the women's compartment. But don't know what to think about that. I think the separate compartments are a short-term solution. Can't be a long-term solution, but it's a pretty effective short-term solution.
Yeah, that's true.
I think I'm incredibly grateful for living in such a country where, like, you know, I know that if anything ever goes wrong, I will get the justice.
Yes.
And I feel that protection from the, you know, legislation and like the system in general just brings me a lot of comfort. I have family that's in, again, law back home in India. And just knowing how long these cases go on for, you know, and these are, again, public transport related cases. We all know about the Nirpay. The fact that it went on for nearly 11 years before she could get just 11 or 9 years. I'm really sorry, I don't remember the exact time span, but it went on for a really long time. I still remember when the case, like when it happened, I was around 6, 7, and she was flown into Singapore, and we used to live in Singapore at the time for her surgery because of the injuries after the incident. And then, unfortunately, we couldn't, like, the doctors couldn't save her. And the fact that it took people that were charged for this, like, there was proof against these people. Everyone knew that, you know, they were the ones in the wrong. The fact that the whole case for her to get justice took so many years is just very frightening. And to have to think about that, and I'm really grateful to have the privilege to not have to think about that. I know if anything ever goes wrong, I have the financial protection and I have the legislative protection as well, where I know I will get the justice I deserve.
Yeah, we are backing.
It's really upsetting to know that certain women don't have that.
Of course.
A lot of women don't have that privilege.
For sure.
I really noticed like the special privilege that we have when during Expo. Okay, that was funny. Every time I would come back at 3 a.m., 2 a.m., but never, not even once, I felt unsafe. That was really cool. Like, I noticed, like, wow, I'm so thankful to be staying here and not anywhere else in the world. Actually, like anywhere. I can't think of any other place that's safer than Dubai.
Yeah, I think that's why I'm so like iffy about like going abroad for
university.
I'm like, I'm
but
so
at the same time, I
privileged,
want to separate. I want to try something different, but also
I completely agree.
Dubai.
Like I definitely agree. Like I want to go abroad for sure, but the thing is with that, like I even considered America, but I was thinking about how it's so different. You know, like in Dubai and in UAE, we're all so protected. Like I feel like women have. They have a lot of legal protection. They feel safe. You know what I mean? In comparison to other places, And I feel like the safety I have over here, it's very hard to find abroad. And that's why it's been very difficult.
Honestly, it's like, those really weird Uber stories that you see on TikTok and you're like, oh, that can't happen here. You just know.
Completely agree.
Here's the funny thing, it has happened here. Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, I'm like 100% safe. It was one of those like Ubers that aren't like the Hala taxi Ubers, they're like the private car Ubers. You know what I mean?
No.
And
red flag.
That was a red flag right there. But my friends got in anyways. And again, the driver kept looking up at the rear view mirror, and he was just staring at us. And we were like,
wait, did he not look at where he was like driving or anything? Like, was it
like
like
red light? Like red lights are in between. When he's driving, you just look up and he's like staring. And then we weren't only girls. There were a bunch of guys in the car too. But like, we still felt so unsafe because all of us felt unsafe at home, and he kept looking up, and he was just like staring at everyone. We were all like.
But I don't mean
The
to
same
invalidate
thing
your
happened a
story.
few months back to me. But I was alone in the taxi. I was going to some hotel for afterboards party, and oh my god, it's a cuckoo clock. Anyways, I was going for the afterboards party, and that guy was staring up. Okay, I was looking so hot. I'm sorry, I was looking so hot, but I got scared. Right, I was like, shit, this is interesting. I've never sat alone dressed like this in a taxi. And then I was like constantly texting my friends. I switched on data. Yeah, I'm in the taxi. Keep talking to me.
Just in case I get kidnapped.
Oh my god, yeah, so I, on Uber, you can like track where the Uber is and everything,
Yes.
right? So for me personally, like after school, sometimes I'd have to get home and I'd have to take an Uber. And my boyfriend at the time, I would like call him and we would speak because I'd be so like anxious. Like even though it's being tracked, you just feel like there's so much caution that you have to take as a girl. Like despite this, you still feel like, oh my god, you never know what could happen. And so I just stay on call until I would get home, or I'd have to like inform someone that, oh, I reached home. It's so crazy that it's still at this point, even if we live in like one of the safest places in the world, I feel like no matter where you are, there's always something that a woman has to be careful about, which a man probably doesn't even have to think twice about. And that really sucks. It genuinely really does. So yeah, I think
That's it for today, guys.
we covered a whole trauma dump. And
Thank you for tuning in to Trauma Dump. Tune in next month again for more
This
trauma.
is Girl Up UAE. Until next time, guys.
we're just real with experience.